geometry. Now this is all European material. What happens in other cultures? Well, through the work of cultural linguists like Stephen Levinson, we know that people in different cultures have other ways of ordering their perceptions than an external Euclidean space. Now some cultures do use the idea of a fixed coordinate system in space using 4 cardinal directions, saying things like, the car is to the south of the building. That's kind of like Newton's idea of an absolute spatial framework. But other cultures order their perceptions in space more in line with Leibniz's view that it's just the relation between bodies. Some involve you as an individual, as when you say the car is to the right of the building. Okay? Relation between bodies and you. And there's a way without the individual where you say the car is in front of the building. That's the intrinsic properties of the object that defines the location. In our own culture, GPS navigational systems are changing people's supposedly innate intuitions of space from the Newtonian to the Leibnizian. I tell a story. Once I asked a taxi driver here in Maryland if his GPS system had changed the way he thought about space. And he got really excited about answering the question. He said, yeah! He said, you know, I used to have the whole geography of greater Baltimore in my head. I don't anymore. Like to take you someplace, I'll turn left out of the airport, I'll take the expressway to such and such exit, then I'll turn right. And when I leave you off, I'll just reverse that. I'll turn left, I'll get on the expressway, I'll turn right into the airport, and I'll get back. But I won't know where I've been. And I was so struck by that I wrote it down. I can tell you. Let's get back to the cultural paradigm shift from Euclidean geometry to non-Euclidean geometry. I'll give you a classroom anecdote. Once I passed a convex mirror around so people could do the little experiment, and one of the students looked at the mirror, he looked at himself and he said, "This is distorted." And one of the other students said, "No, it's not. You're a Euclidean chauvinist." And this exchange makes us ask, what have the most influential modern theorists of culture had to say about this paradigm shift? One particularly interesting thinker on this topic was the Spaniard José Ortega y Gasset, who wrote an essay called The Historical Significance of the Theory of Einstein. Ortega used the new geometries to argue that provincialism, that's assuming that our own experience, our own values are universal, that provincialism is wrong. Euclidean geometry, Ortega said, was provincial. It was an unwarranted extrapolation of what was locally observed to the whole universe. That ain't what reality is, said Ortega. Reality organizes itself to be visible from all viewpoints. Einstein's theory of relativity, this is a quotation, which requires new geometries of space-time, promotes the harmonious multiplicity of all possible points of view. And not just for mathematics and physics, but for politics and culture. Another quotation, there is a Chinese perspective, Ortega says, that is fully as justified as the Western. Highly influential French cultural theorist Jean Baudrillard uses non-Euclidean geometry to shoot down the science-based idea of progress. This is a little less profound than Ortega, but this is a cool quotation. Okay, let's now return to architecture. Let's take Zaha Hadid, the first woman to win the Pritzker Architecture Prize. As an undergraduate, she specialized in mathematics. This is her ideal house. We aren't in the Renaissance ideal city anymore. Here's what she says about the world of the 21st century. The most important thing is motion, the flux of things, a non-Euclidean geometry in which nothing repeats itself, a new order of space. The new geometries inspired many types of artistic freedom. First, I want to give you an example from Cubist art of what Ortega called reality organizing itself to be seen from all points of view. This is a portrait by Picasso. Notice the planes and angles in this portrait from multiple points of view. And notice also that this man is not placed in a visually graspable three-dimensional space at all. Now I'll show you another kind of geometrical influence on art. Around the end of the 19th century, mathematicians began using physical models. Remember, like the hyperbolic paraboloid that I showed you earlier, physical models to teach and study the geometry of non-Euclidean surfaces. There's a great collection of such models at the Poincaré Institute, named after Henri Poincaré, who I quoted before, in Paris. The surrealist artist Man Ray was blown away by what he saw there. On top is Man Ray's Twelfth Night. On the bottom is 3 of the mathematical models in the Poincaré Institute. And I'm sorry you can't read the equation and the description of them at the bottom, but trust me, they're real mathematics. Man Ray said this: "These shapes are so unusual, they are as revolutionary as anything that is being done today in painting or in sculpture." Now look at that cool thing he did with them. So, I mean, there are millions of examples. I'll give you one. Artists, conclusion on that, artists are influenced by the new geometry. They cite its authority and its prestige on their behalf. They use it as part of their creation of self-consciously modern art, and they help us see a different world. All right, now coming to my last pair of slides. Here's the first. I found this searching Google image for hyperbolic paraboloid. And I like this picture particularly because it shows us how much non-Euclidean geometrical objects had become part of the general culture already more than half a century ago. I tried to come up with a joke about we're not in Kansas anymore, but I couldn't. And now I'll show you one that has become internationally famous more recently. The roof is another hyperbolic paraboloid. The English nicknamed it the Pringle. So you can buy a little tin of hyperbolic paraboloids and take them home. Okay, I want to give you a conclusion, and that'll be it. Twice in history, first in Euclid's world and then in the non-Euclidean world, ideas about geometry have shaped art and architecture, have shaped physics and philosophy, and have shaped the way people see and think about the world. Euclidean geometry said, reason can figure out the whole universe, and it's symmetric, and it's stable, and it's uniform, and there's a reason for everything, and everybody who studies it will come to agree. That's not the world we live in now. And the creation of non-Euclidean geometry had a lot to do with the way all of us think about the world that we do live in. So I hope I have convinced you that geometry has been a leading actor in history, an actor, if I may say so, without parallel. Thank you.
Time for a question or two? First of all, that was a dazzling talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was nice of you.
Someone back there.
Would you suggest a rewriting of the Declaration of Independence?
Not in this year.
It's going to be tough to top that. One more question. Joe?
In fact, you must Lippmann Bears. He mentioned what you said about the Declaration of Independence, but then he said Lincoln, writing after Lobachevsky, even though he was not influenced by Lobachevsky, said that dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Another geometrical.
Yes, and that it's an empirical question whether it's going to survive. Yes, it's. Look. Let me say something. Let me say something serious in response to that, because that's a really important point. I don't want to claim that non-Euclidean geometry is the only thing that helped destroy the Enlightenment point of view. I mean, the Industrial Revolution, Darwin, Marx, Freud, World War I, World War II also contributed. So, you know, and the most moving thing in the entire Gettysburg Address is now we are engaged in a great civil war. I mean, that's really horrible. So we do need to be aware of that as well. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I don't think we can top that with the food or the drink, but let's try.
Thank you very much, John. That was Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to broadcast everything.
Oh, hello there. Okay. Yeah, I forgot I was carrying it.